Inheritance of Shadow, Legacy of Light, Virgo 3 Solar Eclipse. Burning question. The Virgo solar eclipse pulls multiple threads together into one single inquiry. What legacy of meaning and worth are you willing to carry forward? And what must you release, even if it breaks apart, to make space for it? We may be tempted to cling to roles, titles, or possessions, feeling they bring status or meaning to our lives. When we consider legacy, however, perhaps it is shaped by presence, integrity, and the daily devotion we weave into our lives. At this eclipse, we are asked to discern what endures, what must end, and how we might seize fleeting moments with both humility and joy. The sky darkens as the moon appears to swallow the sun, a dramatic moment when it occurs during daylight, regarded with fear by generations before us who might not have had access to explanations of the phenomena, and feared for a short while the sun's light might never return. It reminds us of how significant the sun's light and its reliable quality are for us. A solar eclipse marks both an ending and a beginning, a doorway into an unknown territory where the old light fails, old ways no longer support us, and a new vision must emerge. This last eclipse of 2025 and the second new moon of September are in Virgo, a sign that asks us to refine, discern, and dedicate ourselves to meaningful work. This eclipse might find you on the threshold of endings and inheritances, shadow and light, and ask you to face what cannot last. Allow me to explore for you some of the astrological threads of the new moon solar eclipse in Virgo. Maybe we can even begin to weave some together by sharing and breathing life into them. I'm Sonia of Celestial Astrology, and if you enjoy this, please remember to like, subscribe, and share your comments and experiences of this solar eclipse and this time of the eclipse window. We are offered karmic universal support to release habits, material possessions, overthinking, or our quest for unattainable perfection, as the sun's light disappears and is symbolically reborn. Has this thinking ever supported you, or has it harmed you and held you back? Where do you find your legacy? Maybe in your family and the memories and ways you have contributed to family life, your friends and wider circles, your work, your fortune, what you have built or removed, or maybe in ways you have helped others. What is it for you? And what legacy would you choose, if you could? A solar eclipse occurs when the moon passes directly between the Earth and the Sun, temporarily obscuring the sun's light. Symbolically, it marks a moment when conscious awareness, the sun, is overshadowed by the unconscious and instinctive, the moon. This eclipse belongs to Saros Series 154, a family of eclipses that repeats every 18 years, 11 days, and 8 hours. This is the 7th event since the inception of this series in 1917, or you could say we are in the 7th chapter of its unfolding story, linking us back to the eclipse of September 2007 and forward to October 2043. I'll talk more about the Saros series further on. This eclipse is partial, as it is relatively young. Most Saros series continue for approximately 70 plus events, and 1200 to 1300 years. Eclipses reach totality around the midpoint of the series. This eclipse still casts its long shadow. The seeds planted now will ripple forward in time, tied to themes of responsibility, endings, and legacy. Chris Brennan of the Astrology Podcast, who has conducted extensive research on eclipses, has found that they usher in great beginnings and great endings. A new moon solar eclipse marks an ending and release at the same time as significant new beginnings being seeded in the Virgo part of our charts. Eclipse seasons can be intense, perhaps bringing accelerated change, pushing us towards decisive action, breakthroughs, or necessary closures. However, events may often be seemingly insignificant at first, and grow into greater endings, creating room for significant beginnings over time. Symbolically, an eclipse is a moment where something once visible is obscured, only to return with deeper insight once the shadow passes. Once the light returns, like a bridge being crossed into new land, you can never go back. You cannot unsee this new land that is different to what you knew before. Just like tectonic plates shifting, so slowly the movement can barely be measured, but with absolute finality. Once a division is made, something may permanently shift within or around you. This eclipse is on the Virgo-Pisces axis, balancing themes of material reality versus the unseen world, and practical legacy versus spiritual surrender. Virgo is ruled by Mercury, and Mercury is exalted here. Mercury, the messenger planet, who after the moon travels closest to Earth of all the planets. Mercury travels faster and further than any other planet, reaching places that others in their orbit simply cannot. This and the frequent regular retrogrades are also why he is known to be able to travel easily across boundaries and borders between worlds. In exaltation, as well as domicile in Virgo, Mercury is the only planet to have this dual rulership. This brings responsibilities. Can Mercury ever relax to enjoy the gifts of exaltation when combined with the duty of domicile rulership? Mercury rules our thought processes. So is this why those of us with Virgo placements can be plagued with overthinking and a desire for unattainable perfection? Is this why one mistake on pages of perfect data can disrupt the mind, similar to the physical disruption caused to the princess, if you're familiar with the tale of the princess and the pea? Virgo is also shaped by the earth element, pragmatic, discerning and meticulous. It is mutable and yin or feminine, repeatedly shaping and reshaping. The impulse is to refine, discern and perfect through work and duty. Virgo is a sign that receives, sorts and orders the flow of life. Here the focus narrows, asking us to tend carefully to what is right before us, to give form and clarity to what might otherwise remain tangled or diffuse. Like the satisfaction of untangling a necklace. As a sign, Virgo is highly attuned to detail and practical mastery. Virgo's receptivity is introspective, seeking efficiency, clarity, and purification. The mutable nature of Virgo brings adaptability, but it also requires discernment to avoid the traps of perfectionism or paralyzing overanalysis. This eclipse cycle may push us to fine-tune our approach, to release what has become inefficient, and align our efforts with our true purpose and our dreams of legacy. Eclipses reveal shadow, interrupt patterns, and clear what has run its course. A solar eclipse is a seed moment. As the sun's light is extinguished, the ego's certainties are stripped away. Something ends, and something begins, though often in ways we cannot yet see. Those of us with planets or angles in Virgo, which are activated by this eclipse cycle, may find the time emphasizes discernment, organization, refinement and service, with an evolving narrative around clarity, purification, and practical action over time. 3 ways to work with this lunar cycle. The monthly cycle. Reflect on what is ready for release now from the full moon total eclipse in Pisces. What was revealed or concluded 2 weeks earlier or around the 7th of September? And what are you now feeling pulled to initiate? The 6-month cycle. This new moon connects back to the full moon in Virgo eclipse from March 2025. What was culminating or revealed to you then? 2-year moon family cycle. This eclipse is part of a larger lunar arc that is only just beginning and will conclude in December 2027. Consider what long-term changes you would like to see over the next 2 years. The synchronicities, signs and omens, and any new beginnings and doors opening with ease for you at the time of this eclipse may guide you with this. Do take notice. The moon families are a longer sequence of interconnected lunations that weave a narrative over 28 months. We are guided towards the dates we might expect significant turning, or pivot points in this story arc, when we are looking to make adjustments to allow the story to flourish and our goals and dreams to grow. This practice of connecting and linking the hidden threads of lunar cycles is outlined by Dietrich Besson in Lunar Shadows 3. This 2-year lunar family cycle begins with this new moon at 29 degrees of Virgo on September the 1st, 2025, and will be supercharged with the eclipse solar power. The story initiated then unfolds in phases until the last quarter moon on December the 20th, 2027. Each phase builds upon the last, revealing key developments in a longer story. This Virgo moon family is most felt by those with planets or angles in the mutable signs. That's Virgo, Sagittarius, Pisces and Gemini, or the Earth triplicity, Virgo, Capricorn and Taurus, between 25 to 29 degrees. Also those with Mercury as their chart ruler or their Lord of the Year. This story also tiptoes over into Cardinal and Initiatory Venusian Libra, so also those with 0 to 3 degrees of the cardinal signs and air triplicity. Those not listed above include Libra, Aries, Cancer, and Aquarius. You may choose to consciously work with any of these cycles and choose the length that suits how long it will take to grow your plans. For example, for a quick, short-term goal, the monthly cycle is perfect. But for longer-term plans, look for a moon family that connects with the relevant planet in your chart for optimum results. It may be harder to see and work consciously with the solar eclipse new moon, as they bring notoriously unpredictable energy. My advice would be to surrender and observe what comes up. Accept and release with gratitude, and enter the Pisces-Virgo flow, especially in this initial time of the dark moon when things are hidden from our sight. Do you know what house Pisces and Virgo are in for your natal birth chart? This will tell you more about what themes might arise. You can book a reading with me or any other astrologer or astro coach to explore this further. The Asterae Sophia Kairos astrologers have eclipse offerings, with discounts for those who purchase the eclipse workshop or workshop recording from our Ko-fi shop. You'll find the links in the show notes if you're watching the recording. I have YouTube videos where you can learn how to cast your own chart and identify the houses, so you can highlight what themes to expect for yourself. The Astro Coaching Workbook will help you work and co-create with the lunations. You can purchase it from my Ko-fi shop or download it for free when you upgrade your subscription to paid on Substack and financially support my work. It's low cost, the lowest level that Substack allows. I know that things are tight, so I also throw in an astrology readings discount too. And you can join our monthly Zoom Q&A meetings where we are building an astrology community of people who are interested in discussing all things astrology. And you can ask horary questions by donation, so you choose what to pay. This eclipse belongs to Saros series 154 and is the 7th in the series. Bernadette Brady, in her book Predictive Astrology, The Eagle and the Lark, classifies it as Saros Series 09 New South, which started in July 1917 and ends in August 3161. And she pairs it with the Pisces eclipse on the 7th of September. She says that this series is concerned with bringing to the surface long-term worries about loved ones, health, or responsibilities with paperwork coming home to roost. Any news will have a sense of destiny or fatedness about it. The original aspects in 1917 were a Mercury, Saturn and Neptune conjunction, and the new moon was on the Venus-Pluto midpoint. You may want to reflect back on previous eclipses in the same series. If these were memorable dates for you, this series of eclipses may be impactful, with similar themes but not the same as before. Both you and the astrology are different now. If the previous eclipses pass without event, you may not need to feel any astro-anxiety about the upcoming eclipses. The previous eclipses in this series were in 1917, 1935, 1971, 1989, and 2007. When you reflect on these years, were there themes of worry for loved ones, responsibility or duty, fated news, or endings that reshaped your path? The inception of this series had a Saturn, Neptune plus Mercury conjunction, which echoes this year, even as Saturn retrogrades away from its reformation with Neptune. We may find that what is initiated or seeded now is activated when they perfect their conjunction in February 2026, or when Mercury joins Saturn and Neptune in April 2026. This eclipse falls in the 3rd decan of Virgo, a realm steeped in the knowledge that all things must eventually end. Mercury and Venus are co-rulers here, weaving intellect with value and discernment with beauty. This final decan of Virgo is a place of reckoning, preservation, and inheritance. We are asked to consider what truly holds value for us, not just in terms of wealth, but also in the stories, wisdom, and the lessons we pass down. Austin Coppock refers to this decan as the sarcophagus, a symbol of both the wisdom of the past and the inevitability of endings, a place where endings are preserved and remembered. He writes that the last decan of Virgo shows the fate of all matter to be, brought to perfection, and then crumble to dust. Kira Ryberg calls the decan psychopomp, the guide who ferries us between worlds. This ties this space to the threshold between worlds, where the living reflect upon what endures beyond them, approaching the twilight of their time on the material plane. Wealth may have accrued, but it cannot accompany the soul for their next journey. It is a place where value judgments are made. What is worth keeping, passing down, or laying to rest? Like a tomb that safeguards the relics of a bygone era, Virgo 3 holds the weight of tradition, duty, and legacy. At the time of this eclipse, we are invited to acknowledge both what we must preserve and what we must release, understanding that endings are not losses, but transitions in an eternal, ongoing cycle. The Wild Way oracle image shows an elderly doe, resting in the grasses among the shelter of the trees, watching over her young, who stands looking alert and ready to face all that life has to offer. The Wild Way card, named Legacy by Nicola Allen, reminds us that everything must end, and that acceptance of this truth leads to greater clarity and wisdom. Inheritance, whether material or spiritual, is part of the cycle. We are given the keywords: value judgment, all things must end, and inheritance. Endings can also bring clarity. We have the opportunity to see what is worth preserving and what should be released to return to dust. The doe whispers, "Carpe diem, little one. Focus on what is truly valuable and choose what you will leave behind." The Wild Way Oracle reminds us it is not always easy to accept, but all things must come to an end. The wise elder deer of Virgo 3 teaches us to focus on what is truly valuable and to remember that life's treasures can be both fleeting and enduring. The tarot card linked to this decan is the Ten of Pentacles, a scene of inheritance, continuity, ancestry, and wealth passed down from one generation to the next. Yet not all legacies are material. They may be traditions, ideas, creative works, or the simple kindnesses and memories we leave behind. The Ten of Pentacles card signifies the culmination of long-term efforts, maybe over a lifetime. As an elderly gentleman with family, a couple in the Rider-Waite deck appears to reflect on what they have accumulated, often manifesting as established security, wisdom passed down through generations, or the lasting impact of a life's work. It may soon be time to pass the baton to the next generation. The gentleman is seen enjoying the company of his dog, and possibly is unconcerned with the accumulated coins surrounding them. Simple pleasures have replaced ambition. Virgo 3, ruled by Mercury and Venus, brings a focus on value judgment, refinement, and the appreciation of what endures. The Wild Ways description, all things must end, ties in closely to the Ten of Pentacles, which asks us to consider what will remain after us, not just in material wealth, but also in the lessons we impart, the lives we touch, the traditions we uphold and pass on to others. T. Susan Chang encapsulates this decan beautifully in her verse in her book Dreaming the Decans. Guardian spirit of the land, your riches spill into my hand. Of all possessions you can measure, silence is my buried treasure. From realms above to realms below, legacies that I bestow. I have paid for what I know. Tree of life where all things grow. The guardian spirit reflects the Virgoan reverence for tradition and stewardships, while riches spill into my hand, that acknowledges both the material and spiritual wealth inherited from those before us. The line "silence is my buried treasure" aligns with Virgo's introspective, wisdom-seeking nature, valuing understanding over extravagance. The Tree of Life imagery ties into the cyclical nature of legacy, emphasizing that what we cultivate today will nourish future generations. This fits perfectly with the Virgo 3 archetype, where the end of a cycle is not merely loss, but transformation. What has been built now serves as a foundation for what comes next, and is built upon what came before. This eclipse is significant for the Sun's exact opposition to retrograde Saturn in Pisces, perfected just hours before the new moon. Saturn brings themes of responsibility, structure, consequence, and confronts us with endings, limits, and the hard lessons. This polarity presses us between duty and dissolution, asking whether our work springs from authentic selfhood or from inherited burdens and rigid structures that no longer fit. The weight can feel restrictive, demanding reflection and patience. At the same time, we are invited to stand in our integrity, to accept the duties that are truly ours, and to let go of those that are not. As the Lord of Time, he shows us that nothing lasts forever, and yet what we build with integrity may outlive us. There is a reset here, as the illumination from the sun is eclipsed and the light renewed. The eclipse also forms a whole sign square to Uranus in Gemini, continuing a disruptive pattern that has echoed across recent lunations. This is the second Virgo new moon to directly involve Uranus, with the earlier new moon at 0 Virgo showing its sharpest effects. This is the third lunation in September to activate this square. Then, some of us felt the most intense manifestations of Uranus's disruptions, shocks to systems, unexpected turns in communication, and shifts in how we handle information and technology. Uranus shakes what is brittle, forcing innovation, liberation, fresh energy, or collapse. Mercury in Virgo is both ruler and exalted ruler of this eclipse, writing, editing, and supervising the record of our choices and tasks. But Mercury has no line of sight to this eclipse. He is said to be averse as he transits Venus's realm of Libra, leaving the eclipsed sun unsupervised, without his guiding hand. Mercury acts now in a Venusian way, bringing that to the eclipse from behind the scenes. Venus, Mercury's ruler, currently resident in Virgo, is asked to act mercurially. This is known as mutual reception, which creates a subtle support system as each planet hosts the other, offering pathways of collaboration. When a planet is in a sign it doesn't rule, this exchange allows a kind of partnership. Mercury lends discernment to Venus, while Venus lends grace and balance to Mercury. The lesson here is that our words and values need each other. From Virgo, Venus measures what is of lasting worth. Yet Venus and Mercury, though linked by mutual reception, are otherwise averse in this chart. They share no direct line of sight to each other. This creates a dynamic tension for both planets. What we value, Venus, and how we express or record it, Mercury, may not fully or visibly connect. The mutual reception helps us bridge the gap between practical skill and heartfelt meaning. It is as though they are both working together on a project, with the same mutual aims and goals. However, they've been unable to arrange a time to meet on Zoom. Jupiter is travelling through the moon's home of Cancer, offering a whole sign sextile to the eclipse. Jupiter in Cancer magnifies the water element, encouraging nurturing, empathy, family, and belonging. While this is a supportive aspect, it may ease but cannot override the eclipse's tension. Jupiter reminds us that amidst disruption, we can still find emotional grounding when we surrender to the flow. Some journal prompts to consider. What do you consider to be your true legacy? Is it material, creative, or relational? What would it mean to live in a way that honours your integrity rather than your fear? Where are you holding on to structures, roles, or duties that you have outgrown? If everything you owned or achieved turned to dust, what would remain of your essence? Where is Uranus shaking your foundations? And how can you welcome this disruption as part of your inheritance? Where might the mutual reception of Mercury and Venus be asking you to weave together intellect and heart, work and love? What endings are you resisting? And what gifts do they carry? What do you want to leave behind? materially, spiritually, and emotionally, for those who come after you. Some simple eclipse ritual suggestions. Create a legacy altar with 4 items. Something written for Mercury. Something beautiful or heartfelt for Venus. Something old or enduring for Saturn. And something broken or transformed for Uranus. Sit before the altar in silence during the eclipse window and write down on a slip of paper, "What I choose to leave behind is." When you have finished, place it beneath a stone to ground your intention. The sarcophagus box. Write down a duty, a role, or an identity you are ready now to release. Place it in a box or bury it, symbolically laying it to rest. Earth offering. Create a small offering to the earth, perhaps a piece of bread, flowers, or seeds, acknowledging that all returns to the soil in time. And finally, this Virgo eclipse closes a cycle with solemnity and clarity. The Sun's opposition to Saturn reminds us that time is not infinite, and every structure eventually meets its limit. The square to Uranus shakes us free from rigid roles or duties we no longer wish to carry. Yet even as endings may arrive, Jupiter in Cancer offers nourishment and protection, reminding us that we are not alone, showing us how we can lean into care, kinship and memory. The ruler of this eclipse, Mercury, works through a mutual reception with Venus. Though they cannot see each other directly, they extend a hand through one another's signs. This creates a quiet bridge through intellect and value, between craft and meaning, between what we do and what we love. And so the burning question of this eclipse re-emerges. What legacy of meaning and worth are you willing to carry forward? And what must you release, even if it breaks apart, to make space for it? Eclipses do not demand or offer an immediate answer, but they do invite reflection. The choices you make now have greater potential to reverberate through the months and years ahead. Trust that what endures is what has been crafted with care, devotion and love. This eclipse in Virgo 3 reminds us that nothing is eternal. All things must end or transmute, but we are also creators in the process. Through the words we speak, the care we offer, the work we dedicate ourselves to, and even through the disruptions we experience, we shape our legacy. The eclipse asks us what remains when all else falls away. Remember, all things change. It is not too late to learn more by purchasing the recording and/or the workbook, Eclipses Unveiled, which starts at $12 for the workbook and $22 for the workbook and the workshop recording. There is a discount available to paying subscribers from the Asteria Sophia Kairos Ko-fi shop, and you can find the link in the show notes. Travel well, friends.